Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. Normalcy still evades Manipur. Now, three people were gunned down in Kamkopki district yesterday, and the nine men who launched the attack were wearing Manipur police's uniform. Similarly, there was a firing in Palel just a few days ago where three people were killed and more than 50 injured. But what is emerging as a worrisome trend from the latest round of violence, which is coming in the public domain, is an element of distrust which has crept in between the central forces and the Manipur police. Now, obviously, the central forces are pitted against the state police, and you can imagine what the implication of this would be. Now, there is another example. Army had called in the Editors Guild of India journalists to prepare a ground report on the situation in Manipur and what happened. They came to Manipur, and after the report was prepared, there was an FIR against these journalists. Now, where is this situation taking Manipur, and what is really happening as far as the security is concerned, as far as the political manifestation of this whole situation is concerned? Joining me now is a very special panel. I'm joined by Lieutenant General Ashok Mehta. So, thank you so much for joining. We have Suhas Chakma, who's the director of the Rights Based Group. Thank you so much. We have Anil Shetri Mayum, who is a human rights activist and who is a Methi himself. And we have Samir Purkaisa, who's the editor with the Federal, and he covers the entire Northeast. Thank you so much, Samir, for joining. And let me begin with Anil Shetri Mayum only today. That what is happening? What we are seeing right now is an element of distrust between the central forces and the state police. Why do you think this is happening?
See, when you say the army is operate in different parts of the region in Manipur or Northeast, whatever the matters, and so it touches everywhere. I mean, every communities it has been touched. So you cannot say army is or Assam Rifle is against a certain community. Of course, take for instance, if they are operating the cookie area, they have to build this army has to have their own operation has to build a rapport with the own community around there. And if they live in the army who are living with the Mite community, they have to have their own rapport. So you
No, no.
cannot
So you are
say that
saying that you are saying that the army has not been able to build a rapport with the Methi community.
Not exactly. See, certain army who are Assam Rifle who are staying around in the Mite area also have their very good rapport amongst the Mite as well. So when you say you cannot, I would say, I mean, some of my this Mite comrade may be saying that army has to remove from everywhere, but from Manipur itself, but I don't think so. I mean, that is not practically it's not possible. So you can target the certain sector or company who are stationed there. We know that there are certain violence and biasness is there. We have seen by video as well on that witness has been there. But the demand for removing every army from certain from Manipur, I don't think it's not feasible. So it has to say certain army may be violated, but that is only to the certain area. That cannot defend the entire army institution or the entire Manipur itself. That is what I mean.
Right. Okay. Suhas, how would you really define the situation right now on the ground? Like what has happened in Camp Kopki, what has happened in Palel, and we are seeing that there is a the forces are pitted against each other. The central forces versus the state police. Why is this happening? Why is this kind of a scenario evolving?
No, I think they have been happening for a long period of time. This is not, or these are not the first incidents. I think whenever you have a situation where you have the population completely polarized, and there are suspicions with respect to the conduct of the security forces, then it comes from both the communities. I mean, realistically speaking, the cookies are absolutely apprehensive about the conduct of the Manipur police, and the narrative which has been built, although by certain section of the Métis is that Assam Rifles and others are working with the cookies, so they have been helping them. So these are not the first incidents. I mean, these have been happening for a long period of time. They come and go, and I think one of the reasons why this is happening, apart from the, you could say, polarized communities, is the lack of coordination and lack of command structure. At the end of the day, the central armed forces are supposed to operate in aid of the civil administration. But the civil administration, which means police, they are also having their own biases. It depends on the individuals. So there is no, common structure that this is the officer in charge in that particular area. So in certain areas, you will have the Assam Rifles and the army going in, and the local police will having a completely different perspective. And the issue becomes who would listen to him. So if there was unified command, if there was structure, then people would have said, "Oh, this is the commander in charge, or this is the officer in charge from the police or from the army who is responsible in this particular area." So the lack of jurisdiction, which has been created by the Home Ministry itself, by giving the responsibilities to the police in the valley and the responsibility to the center forces in the hill areas. So they have created this mess, and they have created this mess without necessarily creating the structure. So it's like the merger of the Indian Airlines and Air India, in the beginning, which you had. So
Right.
that was with respect to a company which you could have done that. But here it's about the right to life, liberties of the people, and maintaining law and order situation. I think it's extremely unfortunate. And the only reason why this is happening, because nobody at the Ministry of Home Affairs, at the end of the day, wants to take the responsibility.
Right.
So long it is being handled by the state government, the center has no responsibility. You could say, whatever, comments you have against the chief minister or anybody else, it doesn't come or end up with the home minister or the prime minister. I think that's one of the
Right.
main reasons. I mean, it's knowingly created, because
Right.
you cannot have the central security forces fully deployed in the Imphal Valley. It would mean removal of the government itself. And you cannot have the Manipur police in the hill areas, and there will be atrocities. And that's known by the Home Ministry. So they are trying to, wriggle out of it.
Right. Samir, if I may come to you as to what has really happened in Camp Kopki and also in Palle, would it really be right to say that what Suhas pointed out, that the only person who's responsible for this is the Union Home Ministry? And mindlessly, they have, tried to create a structure which is leading to all these divisions within the administration, within the forces. How is it really unfolding on the ground as to taking the recent examples of what we have seen in Palel and also in Camp Kopki?
See, in generally the mistrust against Assam Rifle in the Metis society is very deep rooted. They had, if you look at the 90s and 2000s, so they had ran a long campaign against Assam Rifle, removal of Assam Rifle from Kangla port. So that kind of mistrust was already there. But and amidst this mistrust, when the Home Ministry came up with this unprecedented idea of dividing the administration of the state into two parts, basically saying that we will take care of the hills, essentially meaning that central security forces will look after the law and order situation in the hills, and the state police will look after the valley. So it has, in the common psyche now, already this has only increased the mistrust. Now immediately they see the central forces as the one who is siding with the so-called enemy. So it has only deepened the mistrust, which was already existed. And of course, certain. I'm not saying that there were no, no discrepancies, or there was no wrongdoing in operation, like in the Kwakta incident, which happened in August, I think, if July or August. See, the Kuki militants came down and raided a Meitei village deep inside the Meitei territory. uh, violating the buffer zone. So who was guarding the buffer zone? The security forces. Security forces were guarding the buffer zone, central security forces. So the question was raised, uh, how these cookie groups were allowed to enter, whether it was whether it was a this thing, mere security lapse, or there was some kind of connivance that's need to be investigated. That's but there was serious lapses of this thing, the serious breach of buffer zone.
Hmm.
Similarly, in Kamzol area, again, when the Meitei groups attacked the Kuki volunteers, this attack took place in an area which is very near to the BSF camp. So even the cookies have raised question as to what BSF was doing, why they couldn't provide security. So in this conflict scenario, even this kind of lapses are also being projected as deliberate violation, instead of just some kind of security lapse, which was not inadvertent
Right.
security lapses. But inadvertent security lapses are seen as an this thing, deliberate, and that's further deepening the crisis. For instance, after Kwakta incident, Manipur police had filed an FIR against the Assam Rifle, saying that because of the Assam Rifle, they couldn't arrest some Kuki militants who had carried out the attack. Said Assam Rifle had blocked their entry. So these allegations and counter allegations, Assam Rifle, of course, has refuted the charge. So is going on, and as Suhas pointed out, this is essentially the creation of Home Ministry. Home Ministry should have exactly gauged the situation, like
Right.
this and they should have realized that there is a mistrust among the Meitei communities, particularly against Assam Rifles. And so when Assam Rifles are asked to defend a community which is now seen as an enemy by the Meiteis,
Absolutely.
it only will increase the mistrust,
Right.
and this is creating this problem.
Right. One quick question from Anil, and then I'll go to General Mehta. Anil, what Samir has been saying, that the Metis don't seem to be trusting the central forces. Now, why suddenly Metis? I mean, the central forces are seen, especially the Assam Rifles, are seen as an enemy. I mean, these were forces which the state government had asked for. State government had asked for the additional central forces. These forces were sent for a protection. Now the same force becomes an enemy for a community, which is Metis. How come?
Mm. Yeah, actually, most of the additional forces are not Assam Rifles. It's more of a RAF, and yeah, very few parts of very few companies of Assam Rifles, and interestingly, this all about 60, which claim to be about 60 troops, is not present in. Very few are present here in Imphal, and all are in the border areas. This why it is that, because the for the army, as the Meitei armed groups are, which are not in the peace talk, is to protect this Kuki rebel, because we already know that the army, in terms of the army, is a very good strategy, is the right strategy to protect the cookies in terms of that, to fight the Meitei rebel who are not in peace talk. Their strategy is right, but for the Meitei perspective, it's not right. And so that is, so we don't have to discuss more on this. I mean, MI has more information on this. Why the Sioux is happening in all the border areas, and so I don't have to net it, because if we ask the or army, he would have more better picture than me. And so largely, so all these troops, whatever you are mentioning here is all in the border areas, because in Burma and Manipur borders, because the Meitei rebel has to stop to penetrate Manipur. That is the objective for the army, actually.
Hmm.
So that is, I think, fair enough. I mean, yeah, and also to protect the cookies, also the Sioux, who are the Sioux, is also very fair enough in terms of the army strategy, just to protect the border areas. And uh, uh, the, that is why there is no fence at all. We have about more than 380 kilometers of the border from Manipur to Burma borders, and only 5 kilometer has been fenced, and that is deliberate. Actually, that is deliberate because uh, we are talking about porous. There is no border at all. It's not about a porous border. So army has to see how many PDF can come here and shelter here
Right,
in Manipur. So that is,
right.
army has to protect the PDF as well, and CN as well. And this is very obvious. And MI has a very clear picture on how they are doing all the operation here. I mean, and we clearly knows that, and we can prove with every visual as well to the army as well. I mean, yeah.
Okay, now let me come to General Mehta. What Anil has just said. What I'm not able to understand, General Mehta, is that the army and the Assam rifles, do they lack the legal framework to enter into those villages which probably are classified as disturbed areas? How would one really get out of a situation like this where communities do not trust each other, and there you have the forces on both sides uh, who are not trusting each other? Does it not endanger the peace process? Yes,
Uh,
General
What
Mehta.
was what was the last point made by Onil? I couldn't get that point. Can he repeat that?
Anil?
No, see, General, my simple brief point is that the junta is supporting all the Meitei rebel groups in Burma, and while from the Indian side, the PDF, the CNA, all are giving harbor by the Assam Rifles and the border opera troops around by the army. So this is like the conflict here is not necessarily about Kangpokpi and Suchampur, and it is more to do about the international conflict is happening right now, and this is going to be escalate in the international conflict. That's what I try to make, and we have fairly good proof around here, and we know that how the armies are supporting the suspension operations at the border areas in order to stop the Meitei militants penetrate to Manipur. That is, very logical point from the army strategy, also very right, and of course from the in terms of peace builders like us, it is very challenging for us to work out. I mean, this has to be
Right.
de-escalated.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, General.
okay.
Yeah.
Now it's very difficult for me. I don't know where to start because some of the main issues have been covered very adequately. But because this is a program which is being watched by a lot of people, I just thought I'd spread the basic canvas first. And the
Yes.
basic canvas is this, that the Assam Rifles is been guarding the northeast, the entire Burma border, the border with Myanmar is guarded by the Assam Rifles. The Bangladesh border is guarded by the BSF. The northern border with China by the ITBP. And in Jammu and Kashmir, it's the army with paramilitary forces. So that has to be very clear. It's the Assam Rifles that has spent 300 years in the northeast, including Manipur. They are the, in a manner of speaking, sons of the soil in guarding the northeast. So that's the first point. They are part of the central paramilitary forces, which includes these forces that I have mentioned. The army is required for the external, the security of the country, the external borders, The army will fight to defend that. The state police is there for law and order, and as you know, law and order is a center and state subject. So, in this case, what is absolutely amazing and incredible is that how did the central government allow the situation to carry on the way it is? We are going into the fifth month. 5 months have passed, and 4,000 weapons have been looted. Nearly 200 people, and some say that that figure is 300, and even more could have been killed.
Right.
And the internal dislodgement or displacement goes into 30, 40,000. It has affected Mizoram, it has affected neighboring states. And what has to be stated is that the civil war in Burma has had a direct impact on the situation in Manipur in terms of smuggling of weapons, in terms of narcotics, and in terms of movements of banned terrorist groups whom the Assam Rifles and the Indian Army have been fighting. The Mighty groups as well as the Kuki groups. There are some under what is known as the suspension of operation suspension of offensive operations. They have a peace deal with some groups. So I have to get back to this absurd, absurd actions taken by the Home Ministry in what they have done. They should have declared. They should have declared president's rule a long time ago. But the situation has been so highly politicized. It
Right.
is Manipur has two MPs for the total of 25 members of parliament from the northeast. That is a very important part of our discussion. So everything each panelist has said is is right in their perception that what has happened is because of mistrust, but the situation has been created and politicized by the center by allowing, and forgive me for saying this, uh, that the chief minister should have been sacked a long, long time ago, but he's the hero of the mighties. He's I mean he will bring the votes, he will win, get the two members of parliament for the BJP. And it is shameful that while the G20 was being celebrated and is being celebrated in Manipur state, as you mentioned, Nilu, that there has been these military actions going on even today as we
Yes.
speak. The second point I want to make is what Suharsh had mentioned, which is the failure of the central government. Actually, it's the failure of the chief minister. It is the prerogative of the chief minister to create a unified command. That unified command then takes in DG Assam Rifles General Nair, who, who in an interview last week or 10 days ago said that Assam Rifles has never, and for a third time, never faced a situation like this where two communities are arrayed against each other, and perceptions of army and Assam rifles favoring one or the other community. I mean, the Indian army and the especially the Assam rifles, have this reputation of being unbiased, unprejudiced, and secular. They are just not interested whether you are a cookie or a mighty or a Hindu or a Muslim, a Christian. No, this is what distinguishes the Indian Army from state police and some of the central paramilitary forces. And it's very sorry state of
Right.
affairs
Absolutely.
in the country today. I have spent I have spent 40 years in the army, and in my 40 years, and I've seen operations in the northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, Sri Lanka. I have never seen a situation where there is so much of confusion in the command structure. There is so much of mistrust and distrust of the security forces who are
Right.
there to protect the civilians. The job of this of the security forces is protection of civilians, and
Right.
this is one element that has been added in UN peacekeeping also. That while you may keep the warring factions apart, you have to protect civilians, no matter we Cookie or is a Mighty or is a Naga or is a Pangal or whoever. So that's the second point. What the DG Assam Rifles has said, the failure of the, and the third point is lots of weapons. Why these incidents are happening is because the 4,000 weapons have been lost by the state police. There's some allegations that some weapons have been lost by paramilitary forces. I don't know about that. But
Right.
4,000 weapons are on record as having uh, been looted from the Manipur police. And I hate to mention this, but there are some reports that people were allowed to take weapons out by depositing their Aadhaar cards. And they said, well, when you want your Aadhaar card, come and give back them. The effect, the effect of 4,000 weapons coupled with the mistrust between the
Absolutely.
two communities will create new insurgencies. Those boys may have already joined the Cookie militia or the Mighty militia or the barricades or whatever. So this is already a very dangerous situation. And the last point that needs to be made here, that there is something endemically wrong in Manipur. And I should be forgiven for saying this because while there the politicians and the and military and the state authorities have been able to bring peace to almost the entire northeast, only Manipur has evaded peace. Manipur has never enjoyed the kind of peace, say, that Mizoram or other northeast eastern states have enjoyed because of this linkage with weapons, uh, the problems in Burma, and and the fact that the situation has been so terribly politicized.
Absolutely.
So I just want to end my contribution here by saying what General Nair has said painfully, that this is unprecedented for the armed forces, that its impartiality is being challenged.
Absolutely. Thank you, General Mehta. But a quick comments from all the three of you. And Samir, I'll come to you first. What is really happening on the front of disarming the people? The weapons were looted. I was reading stories on the ground that the government has instituted some drop boxes where it has told the people that come and drop those guns and whatever arms you have looted. But then apparently people are using those drop boxes as selfie boxes. The people come, they haven't dropped the arms and the ammunitions which they have looted from the armories, but they come and take selfies and they are lying empty. Now, what is really happening? Is it a complete lack of political will, and deliberately Biren Singh government is not chasing the people who have run away with the arms.
See,
They're not.
when even if the state government wants to bring back the arms, they won't be able to do it because because many civil society organizations have clearly said they are not going to return it, and there are strong public sentiment against returning of arms, and and interestingly, instead of recovering of arms, now we heard that some arms are being, some are of course were handed over to militant groups representing their respective community. But apart from that, some arms are also being sold to militant groups of neighboring areas like Naga militant. There were one recent instance where NSC and IM, one NSC and IM self-styled captain was arrested while he was purchasing, after he purchased 9 mm carbine for rupees 3 lakhs with some ammunition, and he was while he was taking back to Ukrul, he got arrested by Assam Rifles. So so Manipur is now becoming a new Cambodia, where arms are available everywhere. You can just go and pick up the guns and start fighting, and this will create a serious ramification even for the future, because these arms are going to the hands of militant groups, and Anil will know better. There are churning even within the Meitei militants, and even among the Kuki militants, particularly among the Meitei militant groups. Also, there are factions. So and both sides are trying to increase their strength. All these factions, they try to increase their strength, and so when these arms are coming, in future there may be fratricidal killings among these militant groups.
Absolutely.
So that kind of fear is also there, and possibility, that kind of possibility is also there.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
but as I said, it won't be that easy to recover arms now, and security forces have launched operation to recover arms, but it didn't yield desired results so far.
Right.
Even the Assam Rifles and Army are
Right.
also conducted several operations, and they have been conducting operation, but unfortunately without much success.
Absolutely. But Anil, if I may come to you now since there is a sharp sense of distrust which is now manifesting, and everybody is watching on the ground helplessly in the sense that you have a government which is suffering from a severe lack of political will. It doesn't want to act. Here you have two communities which are fighting against each other. They are being protected by forces who again don't trust each other. Now what is really going to happen in future? There will be no intelligence gathering, of course. People won't trust, they won't give any intelligence inputs. What is really going to be the implication on the security of the state and also the peace process? What do you think?
Yeah, in fact, if unless the quick solution, if I can say, is that if unless from center is intervened, as General rightly said, PR is very, I mean, crucial right now at the moment, and right now is a complete anarchy is happening right now. So in terms of whether in the cookie side or whether in the meaty side as well, because the fight between it is not only the fight between cookie and meaty. The fight between the cookie is also propping up in the last few days, and as well as within the Mite also they are fighting. A lot of factions is happening, so it's a complete anarchy is happening. So the PR is something that we have been recommending to dismantle this, uh, the central led government. And I mean, I would say the most corrupted government we have ever I mean experienced so far. And unless this has been done, there is no any peace process is going to is gonna make. So, see, last 4 months, still
Anil,
the
tell me honestly, you belong to the Methi community, but all these
yeah.
allegations against the Biren Singh government that he is, in a way, trying to carry out a majoritarian agenda. He's carrying out an ethnic cleansing right from day one when the violence has started. There is a feeling which is looming very, very large and very, very explicit that this is some kind of a very dangerous majoritarian agenda which he is carrying on. Now, what is he really achieving? And what are the Metis achieving? I want to know from you, and then I'll go to Suhas for the concluding comments. Yes.
No, I don't think Manipur is a very what do you say? It's comprises of more than 30 tribes, so you cannot negate Kuki. I mean, to build Manipur, and Kuki has to be here, and Naga has to be here, and other splinters who are this thing small tribes which doesn't belong to Naga, either Naga or Kuki has to be here, and that is how Manipur has been made. But Manipur is not a land for Meitei only. So that is what I can say. And unless if we have that is their own agenda. It might be brilliant, and that is not my
No,
or
but
the people.
Being a Methi, you feel the Biren Singh is not reaching out to the Kuki community at all, which is suffering.
No, see, he tried and he screwed up. I mean, this is a very long story. I mean, see, the whole war is not about the cookie. It is more to do the drug war actually, basically, and the drug lords are achieving this war, and they're winning this war. And who are the drug smugglers? And you know it. And I mean, it involves the mite, it involves the cookie, it involves the or pangal, whatever the matters. So
No, no, but
maybe
are you saying that Biren Singh is so helpless that he can't tackle these drug lords, even if the entire story is centered around the drugs? So, are you saying that Biren Singh is so helpless that he cannot handle these drug lords, despite the fact that he's got so many additional forces from the center? He's so helpless right now on it.
it's in fact, it's not very easy to say in this open platform. Yeah, we know who are the who. I mean, it involves even the army as well. This nexus is not only about the state is there. I mean, the community and army also involved, and you may be aware
See,
of
you're
the
making a
how.
very important point. You're making a very
Yeah,
important point on it. You are saying that the army is also involved in drug trafficking. Are you saying
of
that?
course. Major Chowdhury, who was caught with about 300, almost 300 crores, have been. He was arrested along with the
Hmm.
Mitei and Kuki the nexus. So that is, if you ask to the MI military intelligence, they will tell you elaborately. And that is not the first time. I mean, it has been on and off as well. It's a very open border. It used to be army used to be doesn't want to come here in Manipur, but later in 80s. But now in 2000s, they want to come here. It makes a lot of money in Manipur,
Right.
whether it's army or whether it's any any sort of people. I mean, so this has to discuss specifically case by case in different platform. I mean, not here.
No, but what you're saying is looks like a dangerous concoction. So, how would you really read the situation right now, where what Onil is saying, and if I what he's saying, and if you were to believe in the fact that the army is involved, the Kuki militants are involved, the Metis are involved, and here you have a helpless chief minister, uh, or rather an unwilling chief minister who doesn't want to act. Now, what is the way out to the current morass in which Manipur is neck deep into? Just unmute yourself. Suhas, you have to unmute yourself. Yeah.
I think everybody knows, but there is a problem to speak on record because of the cases filed, by the actors at different level. But I agree with O'Neill that this war has nothing to do with the relationship between the cookies and the mateys. when two communities live nearby. Of course, there are sometimes skirmishes, differences by certain groups or individuals. It doesn't, reflect the minds of the community. The root cause of this problem is actually with drug trafficking, with the arrest of a certain person, which took place in December 2022 in Delhi, and it has to do a lot with,
January.
yeah, January, yeah, in January, and it has a lot to do
Generally.
with not getting adequate share of the drug money. And when there is a drug trafficking, we all know it cannot take place without complicity of certain officials who are in power or in position to facilitate that. Now, who are those individuals? Whether that's something which is part of state policy are to be investigated. But otherwise, the chief minister was seen till the end of the war as very much pro tribal. So I think this conflict has a lot to do with drug trafficking. Who does, who does not? I would only say that it cannot take place with the connivance of certain people
Right.
who are involved and not necessarily reflecting the official policy of the state or people who are responsible for running these things. But it is a
So,
fact that
yeah.
the
Okay.
way
So,
I see it is, I mean, is there a way out? Unfortunately, I do not see a way out simply because the situation is so complex given the internal politics as well as the international conflict involving Myanmar, and given the very nature of the tribal communities in the northeast, the way they react. If you take the responsibility today as the home minister, I am telling you the responsibility which is being, or the blame which is being taken by the chief minister, will fall upon the home minister. And when the home minister is involved, the prime minister is involved. So why would they take the responsibility, knowing fully well you cannot improve the situation? And why you cannot improve the situation? For two
absolutely.
reasons. It's not the same situation between the Nagas and the Cookies in the 1990s. That was with the insurgent groups. Here you have the state government represent the majority community for the both bank politics. Then you have the Cookies who are also supported to a large extent by the security forces given the insurgency and the geopolitics. So you cannot, and what you have done, which is never seen in this country, is that you have transferred the entire population from the both states. And I was saying in many programs that once you transfer the population, nobody would feel secure enough to return, at least in the next 5 years or next 10 years. So, irrespective of how it goes on, I think the way I see it, by the next 2024 elections, we would still have Manipur exactly in this situation, because when we talk about 4,000 arms. We have not talked about 500,000 ammunitions which are
Right.
lost. And out of these
Right.
500,000 ammunitions, maybe only 5,000 have been used. And where are the 4,095, 4,95,000 ammunitions? So
Right.
these have fallen into the hands, and nobody will be able to bring the situation under control. And that's why center will not act, and people will believe, including the Godi media, that Manipur doesn't exist. If there is a conflict, we are happy to resolve the problem in Ukraine. And Trump will declare that we are very
Right.
good at drafting something which is acceptable by G20, but we cannot have our own MLS accept, certain tax between the among themselves from the same party.
Right.
So that's a way. This conflict will continue at
Absolutely.
least for some more time.
Right. And amongst the four panelists, if we can discuss the problem at length, I don't understand the reason why the center and Manipur cannot sit together and find a way out to the current problem. But one quick comment from Samir and General Mehta before I wind up the show. Just 1 minute to you, Samir. So basically, it's very, very clear that Home Minister Amit Shah has left everything now to Biren Singh. He may handle Manipur the way he wants.
See, basically, BJP wants to have the cake and eat it too. They
Right.
are trying to play with both the communities, essentially by telling that central security forces will give protection to the cookies. The center wanted to send out a message: "Look, we are with you." and and then their party stand. If you see that their party stands are pro Meitei.
Hmm.
So basically they are trying to placate both the community, and when you have this kind of vested interest in a complicated situation like this, when your mind is not clear, your thoughts process are not clear, obviously you are not going to have a solution, going to have any kind of solution. So
True.
BJP's this entire the BJP's Manipur policy is directed towards the, not it's not guided by administrative compulsion, but their electoral
Right.
gain. They
Right.
are eyeing at what electoral dividend they can get out of this. And that is why this problem is becoming more and more complicated. Instead of trying to find a administrative and purely law and order solution, or maybe even the political solution by bringing two communities together, uh, but instead of doing that, they
Right.
are playing politics.
Right. So they are playing politics. I'll come to General Mehta now. We're really running short of time, General Mehta. So, what could be the final solution? Is it going to be a political solution or a military solution? Yes, sir.
Well, I can say that very easily that there's no military solution to a political problem. But I think what we should try to do is impose president's rule. Now, the BJP has never, in its term of office, as far as I can think, has ever imposed president's rule in any state. So, but that's not a deterrence to doing so. Uh,
Absolutely.
so at least they should try, although president's rule means uh, governor appointed, administrated administrator appointed by the center. You de facto have a central rule under 255. You have a security advisor already there, but you have to remove the chief minister. And by removing the chief minister, is that going to improve the situation? Uh, we have to watch and see. But eventually, violence has to be brought down on both sides. So, and and a period of absence of violence, if I may put it like that, is necessary for
Absolutely.
a ultimate political solution. And it is clear to me that neither community, after the ethnic cleansing has been completed by both sides, it is very difficult for either side, for cookies to go back to the valley and for Maitis to go back to the hill areas or the More area. So you will need a kind of a tribal, like the Bodo tribal
Absolutely.
autonomous solution that they
Right.
had, some kind of autonomy that they have asked for. The cookies have asked, and the Nagas have said that they don't mind as long as the territory, the land involved is not Naga inhabited.
Right.
So we have to explore that, but before anything else, you have to put uh, the lid on the violence.
Absolutely. And that's
That is
actually not
that is the
right.
first requirement,
Right. And
and
you were
then
saying that
the
that's the first requirement, and that's clearly not happening. There is no
yeah.
lid on the violence. There is no, there's a complete lack of political will to control that violence. And what is the saddest part is the kind of balkanization which is seen in the state right now. We really wonder, and we are forced to wonder whether at all the minds and hearts of the people will really unite in Manipur, which is really unfortunate. But I'll have to end the program here. Thank you so much, Jan Mehta, Suhas Chakma, Onil. It was wonderful having you on the program. Thank you, Samir, so much. And one appeal to the viewers who are watching this program: subscribe to our channel, send us your feedback, and stay tuned to the Federal. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.